Wealth is a byproduct of disciplines practiced daily. It's found in the small things. The way you handle $10, the way you treat an hour of your time, the way you show up for yourself even when nobody's watching. And here's the secret. The little things are never little. The small things are what make the big things possible. You see, comfort feels good in the moment, but robs you of future wealth. Discipline feels tough in the moment, but delivers freedom later. The question is, which pain do you choose? The pain of discipline or the pain of regret? So today, let's break out of the small cycle. Let's stop asking, what can I get today? And start asking, what can I build over the next decade? Because if you think small, you'll act small. But if you think big and act on it daily, you'll attract the kind of success that not only changes your life, but changes generations to come. The clock is ticking, but the opportunity is still wide open. The only question left is, will you start now? Let me tell you something. I learned early in my career, you don't get rich by doing everything. You get rich by doing the right things. Most people confuse activity with productivity. They think if they're busy, they're moving forward. But busy isn't always better. You can be busy going in circles. I've seen people hustle all day, yet at the end of the year, they're no further ahead. Why? Because they didn't learn how to multiply their output. They worked harder, but not smarter. The wealthy understand this distinction. They figure out how to do more with less effort, not by cutting corners, but by raising their effectiveness. One of the first ways to do that is by focusing on high-impact tasks. There's a simple principle that changed my life. It's called the 80-20th rule. It says that 80% of your results usually come from just 20% of your efforts. Think about that. Most of what you do all day is not producing much. But there's a small portion of your activities that create the majority of your progress. For me, it was making phone calls to potential customers when I was starting out in sales. I used to spend time organizing my desk, rewriting my notes, or checking in with colleagues. But none of those paid the bills. When I finally sat down and asked, what's the smallest number of things I can do that create the biggest results? The answer was obvious. Pick up the phone and call someone who might buy my product. That was the action that made all the difference. Once I learned to prioritize the few high-value actions and do them first each day, everything started to change, my income grew, and so did my confidence. The second part of multiplying your output is using tools and technology. Now, when I started, there weren't apps or software to help you budget or invest. I used a paper ledger. But today, you have incredible tools at your fingertips. Use them. Automate what you can. Use apps that track your spending so you don't have to do it manually. Use online platforms that invest your money automatically right out of your paycheck. Set up calendar reminders to follow up with clients or prospects so you don't miss an opportunity. The wealthy don't rely on memory. They rely on systems. Technology is the great equalizer. It allows you to do the work of 10 people with half the effort if you use it right. But don't let technology replace thinking. Use it to free up your mind so you can think about strategy, not just tasks. The third key is learning to batch your work. That means grouping similar activities together. Why? Because switching tasks drains your energy. Every time you stop doing one thing to start another, your brain has to shift gears. It's like stopping at a red light. Every 5 minutes it wears out the engine. But when you batch tasks, you build momentum. If you need to write emails, do them all in one sitting. If you need to make phone calls, block off a time and do them back to back. I used to set aside certain hours of the day for selling, others for reading, and still others for rest. By focusing on one type of task at a time, I got more done in less time. You avoid decision fatigue because you're not constantly asking, what should I do next? You already know. Now, let me give you a real-life example. I once mentored a young man who was trying to grow his side business while working a full-time job. He came to me frustrated, saying, I don't have time to build wealth. I asked him for his schedule, and it turned out he was spending hours on low-impact activities tweaking his website layout, redesigning his business cards, reorganizing files, But he wasn't making sales calls, following up with leads, or creating new products. I told him to write down his top 3 income-producing tasks and do them first each day before anything else. I also showed him how to automate his accounting with a simple app, saving him hours each week. Finally, I suggested he batch his emails and calls so he wasn't switching back and forth between tasks all day. Within 6 months, his income doubled. Not because he worked twice as hard, but because he learned how to multiply his output. So the lesson is simple. Wealth isn't just about doing more. It's about doing more of what matters. Prioritize the few actions that produce the biggest results. Use tools and systems to handle the repetitive tasks. Batch your work so you can focus deeply without distraction. When you combine these strategies, you'll find yourself getting more done in less time with less stress. And when you become a person of multiplied output, money starts to flow toward you, not away from you. One of the greatest mistakes people make when they set out to change their financial life is thinking that goals are enough. They sit down at the start of the year, write down a big goal. Maybe it's to make $100,000. Maybe it's to save their first $10,000. Maybe it's to start a business, and for a few weeks, they're fired up. They're motivated. But then life happens. Distractions come. Motivation fades. And by February, the goal is sitting in a notebook somewhere, gathering dust. You see, the wealthy don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems. Goals are important, they give you direction. But systems are what get you there. Systems create automatic progress, even when you don't feel like it. Let me explain how that works. Let's say your goal is to earn $100,000 this year. Well, that's fine. But if you just write down the goal and leave it at that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You need a system, a daily process that moves you toward that goal step by step. For example, if you're in sales, your system might be make 10 calls before noon every day, follow up with 5 potential clients, and send out 3 proposals each week. That system, repeated daily, will get you closer to the $100,000. The number isn't magic. It's the system that produces the number. You don't have to wake up each morning and wonder, how do I get to $100,000? You just wake up and follow your system. And that's the secret. The system is stronger than willpower. When I first started building my own wealth, I learned this lesson the hard way. I was fired up with big goals, but I didn't have systems. Some days I'd make 20 calls, other days I'd make none. I'd read books for hours one week, then skip the next. It wasn't until I sat down and created a daily system that didn't rely on how I felt that things started to change. I wrote out my routine. Make calls every morning before anything else. Spend 30 minutes reading after lunch. Review my financial statements once a week without fail. That system became my machine. Even when I didn't feel like it, I followed the system. And before long, my results started to stack up. Automation is the next piece of the puzzle. Automation is about removing willpower from the equation altogether. For example, don't decide every month whether to save money. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your investment account. Make it happen without thinking. That way, you don't have to rely on discipline in the moment. The system handles it for you. Wealthy people automate their savings, automate their investments, and even automate their learning schedules. They use apps to invest small amounts of money every week, whether they feel like it or not. They set up reminders to review their finances regularly so nothing gets forgotten. Automation creates consistency, and consistency is the foundation of wealth. But there's another important lesson here. Consistency always beats intensity. Most people try to get rich with bursts of energy. They get excited, work like crazy for a week, then burn out. That's not how wealth is built. Wealth is built quietly, by consistent effort over time. It's like planting a tree. You don't water it once a month with a fire hose. You water it a little every day. Daily disciplines beat occasional enthusiasm. I learned this when I first got into personal development. I thought if I read 10 books in one weekend, I'd change my life. But then Monday came, and I was back to my old habits. The real change happened when I committed to reading just 10 pages a day every day. Small, consistent inputs lead to massive long-term outputs. Let me give you an example. I once worked with a young entrepreneur who wanted to build an online business. He was excited. He set a big income goal for the year, but he kept getting stuck. He'd work on his website for hours one weekend, then ignore it for 2 weeks. He'd binge watch online courses for a day, then forget about them. I sat him down and said, let's build a system. We broke it down into daily actions. Write 1 email to your list every day. Post 1 piece of content to social media. Spend 30 minutes learning something new and review your sales numbers once a week. We set up automated reminders and used apps to schedule his posts in advance. Within 6 months, his business was growing steadily, not because he worked harder, but because he worked smarter with a system. So here's the bottom line. Don't just set goals, build systems. A goal is the destination. The system is the vehicle that gets you there. Use automation to remove the need for willpower. Automate your savings. Automate your investments. Automate your learning. Then focus on consistency over intensity. Show up every day, do the work, follow the system, and let the results compound over time. That's how wealth is built, not in fits of excitement, but in quiet, daily, systemized action that stacks up to something extraordinary. Most people never take the time to sit down and decide what they really believe about money. They just absorb ideas from parents, friends, the media, and society. Some of those ideas are helpful, but most of them are accidental and reactive. You hear things like money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy, or I'm just not good with money. And before you know it, those phrases become your philosophy by default. But wealthy people don't leave their money philosophy to chance. They design it. They sit down and think about the kind of relationship they want to have with money. They write it out. They create a set of personal wealth rules that guide every decision they make, rules for earning, saving, investing, spending, and giving. That's what I'd call a wealth manifesto. And without one, you're just drifting financially. I remember when I first started learning about success, I had to unlearn a lot of the ideas I grew up with. I was raised with good values, but not necessarily wealth-building principles. So I sat down one day with a blank sheet of paper, and I asked myself, what do I want to believe about money from this day forward? I wrote down simple statements, but they became powerful guidelines. I wrote things like, I will always invest before I spend, and I will only buy luxuries with profits, never with wages. Another one was, I will give at least 10% of everything I earn to help others. These rules became my compass. Whenever I faced a financial decision, I had something to measure it against. It took the guesswork out of it. That's what a wealth manifesto does. It removes confusion. It gives you clarity and consistency. It helps you stay on track even when emotions try to pull you off course. But writing it once isn't enough. You've got to review it regularly. The wealthy keep their philosophies close, like a personal playbook. I made it a habit to read my wealth philosophy at least once a week. Sometimes I'd read it aloud to myself just to reinforce it. Other times I'd sit quietly and reflect on how well I was living it. Did I follow my rule about saving first this week? Did I invest wisely? Or get distracted by something shiny? Did I give generously? This weekly review wasn't about guilt, it was about alignment. It helped me catch small mistakes before they became big ones. And over time, this practice built a stronger financial character in me. It taught me to lead my life, not just react to it. There's another reason to document your wealth philosophy. You get to pass it on. The wealthy don't just build bank accounts, they build legacies. Part of that legacy is teaching others the principles that worked for them. I've often said, if you want to leave a rich inheritance, leave more than money leave, the wisdom that created it. That's why I always encourage people to share their wealth philosophy with their family, their friends, or the people they mentor. When you teach what you've learned, two powerful things happen. First, you reinforce the lessons in your own mind. Teaching deepens your commitment to the principles. And second, you multiply your impact. You help others avoid the mistakes you made. You give them a shortcut to wisdom. That's real legacy work. Let me give you a real-world example. I once worked with a business owner who had built a successful company but was struggling to teach his children how to manage money. He wanted to pass on his wealth, but he was worried his kids would squander it because they hadn't learned the lessons he had. I suggested he sit down and write his personal wealth manifesto. He spent a weekend doing it, writing out his rules for earning, saving, investing, spending, and giving. Then he brought his kids together and shared it with them. He didn't just give them money, he gave them a philosophy. That changed everything. His children started making wiser financial decisions because they had a blueprint to follow. And more importantly, it created meaningful conversations about values, not just dollars. So if you haven't done this yet, I'd encourage you to start today. Take out a piece of paper and write down your personal wealth rules. How will you earn your money? Will it be through service, problem solving, creativity, or leadership? How will you spend your money? Will you live below your means, or will you chase every new gadget that comes along? How will you invest? Will you put your money into things that grow or things that fade? And how will you give? Will you make generosity part of your plan, or will you leave that to chance? Once you've written it, don't just file it away. Read it often. Review it weekly if you can. Put it on your bathroom mirror or your desk, someplace where you'll see it. Let it guide your actions every day. And when you've lived it long enough to see results, teach it to someone else. Sit down with your spouse, your kids, or a friend who's struggling financially and share your philosophy. Help them build one of their own. Because when you do that, you're not just building wealth, you're building a legacy of wisdom that can last for generations. Building wealth is never a straight line. It's a journey filled with unexpected twists, turns, setbacks, and challenges. If you think wealth is just about luck or timing, you're missing the bigger picture. The real difference between those who finish wealthy and those who don't isn't how many opportunities they get, but how mentally tough they are when the road gets rough. Wealth is built through resilience, the ability to bounce back, adapt, and keep moving forward despite obstacles. It's about building mental toughness that carries you through failures and setbacks instead of letting them stop you in your tracks. I want you to expect setbacks because they are inevitable. No one who has ever achieved lasting wealth has done so without facing failures. You might lose money on an investment, miss a promotion, get rejected by a client, or experience a business slowdown. But those moments are not the end of your journey, they are part of it. I remember early in my career, I had a deal fall through that I thought would set me up for life. Instead, it left me scrambling. I had to learn quickly that setbacks aren't punishments, they're lessons. Seeing failure as a stepping stone, not a stumbling block, shifts your mindset and prepares you to keep going. When things do go wrong, and they will, you must have a recovery plan. This isn't just about reacting impulsively. It's about pausing to assess the situation. Take a moment to reflect. What went wrong? What can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach? Then commit to restarting with a better strategy. I once faced a major financial setback because I ignored warning signs. Instead of panicking, I stopped, reviewed every decision, sought advice, and adjusted my course. That pause allowed me to save what I could and come back stronger. Having a plan for recovery makes failure less intimidating and gives you control when chaos tries to take over. Mental toughness also requires emotional detachment. Money and business are emotional topics, but if you let feelings like fear, frustration, or excitement drive your decisions, you'll sabotage your wealth-building efforts. When the market drops, the impulse might be to sell in panic. When a windfall comes, the impulse might be to splurge. Instead, develop the discipline to respond calmly, using logic and facts rather than emotions. Emotional control is a secret weapon of the wealthy. It helps you make decisions that serve your long-term goals, not short-term impulses. Think about a storm. You can't stop the rain or the wind, but you can prepare, stay grounded, and wait it out. Wealth-building storms will come. The key is to not let them uproot you. Develop resilience by expecting challenges, planning your recovery, and controlling your emotional responses. I often say, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few errors in judgment, repeated every day. Mental toughness helps you keep your discipline strong, even when the going gets tough. If you build your mental toughness this way, setbacks become stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. You learn to use adversity as fuel instead of allowing it to burn you out. You become the kind of person who views challenges as opportunities to grow and refine your wealth strategy. Wealth is not just about accumulating dollars, it's about growing character, persistence, and resilience. This inner strength keeps your vision alive when the outside world pressures you to give up. So my advice is this: prepare for setbacks. Build a recovery plan so you know what to do when things go wrong. Train yourself to respond with calm and logic, not panic or emotion. This mental toughness is what will carry you through the darkest financial storms and lead you to the light of lasting wealth. Remember, wealth belongs to those who endure. It's not the quickest or the smartest alone who win. It's the toughest. Build your toughness daily, and no setback will keep you from finishing wealthy. Wealth is not a sprint. It's a journey through seasons, each with its own rhythm and purpose. Just like nature doesn't rush the crops to grow, neither should you rush your wealth. Understanding and mastering these seasons is a key secret to lasting financial success. I've learned through my own journey that those who try to harvest too early often end up with little to show for their efforts. The wealthy understand the wisdom of timing. They know when to plant, when to nurture, and when to harvest. In the planting season, your focus is on preparation. This is the time to learn, explore, and network. When I was starting out, I spent countless hours reading books, attending seminars, and meeting people who inspired me. I was planting seeds in the form of knowledge, relationships, and small experiments. You might not see immediate results, and that's exactly the point. Planting is about sowing as many seeds as possible without worrying about the harvest. Plant the ideas, plant the relationships, plant the skills. Each seed you plant now has the potential to grow into something far greater than you can imagine. Then comes the nurturing season, the time to be patient and consistent. Growth is happening beneath the surface, even if you can't see it yet. I remember feeling frustrated when my early efforts didn't produce quick returns, but I learned that persistence during this phase is everything. Just as a farmer waters and cares for the soil, you need to nurture your projects daily, whether it's continuing to improve your skills, refining your business, or strengthening your network. Stay patient and trust the process. This is where many give up, but the wealthy stay the course, knowing that slow and steady growth leads to sustainable wealth. Finally, the harvest season arrives. When your efforts begin to bear fruit, it's time to reap the rewards, but with wisdom. Don't exhaust all your resources in the harvest. Keep some seeds aside to plant in the next cycle. That's how wealth keeps growing, by continually reinvesting a portion of your earnings back into new opportunities. In my life, I've always reserved part of my harvest to fund new projects and personal growth. This cyclical approach to wealth ensures longevity and continual progress. Mastering the seasons of wealth means respecting the natural flow of growth and understanding that timing matters. You cannot force success overnight, but if you align your actions with the right season, you build a foundation that lasts for generations. You plant with vision, nurture with patience, and harvest with prudence. This seasonal wisdom will keep you from the traps of impatience and impulsiveness, which often lead to financial ruin. If you learn to honor these seasons, wealth will come to you naturally, like the changing of the tides. Wealth is a garden, and your job is to be a patient, diligent gardener. Plant your seeds well, nurture them daily, and harvest wisely. That's the path to lasting abundance. Remember, the wealthiest people aren't those who rush, but those who master timing. Wealth grows when you respect the seasons and act accordingly. So plant today, nurture daily, and harvest with wisdom. Your future depends on it. Wealth begins to grow the moment you shift your mindset from trading time for money to creating systems that work for you even when you're not working. Many people think that earning is tied directly to their labor. If they stop working, the money stops coming. But true financial freedom comes when you learn how to earn while you sleep. That's the power of leverage, the magic of passive income, and the secret to building lasting wealth. The first step in this journey is creating passive income streams. When I look back, I realized that the biggest breakthrough in my financial life wasn't when I worked harder, but when I learned to put my money and knowledge to work for me. Investments in dividend-paying stocks, rental properties that bring monthly cash flow, or digital products that sell on autopilot. These are examples of assets that earn for you while you rest. These income streams do not require your daily attention once set up properly. The real power is that they keep working regardless of whether you're physically present or not. It's like planting a tree. After the initial effort, it bears fruit year after year. Next, productizing your knowledge is one of the most powerful ways to create leverage. We all have skills, experiences, and wisdom that others find valuable. Instead of exchanging hours for dollars, package what you know into ebooks, courses, workshops, or even licensing agreements. I've witnessed people turn their expertise into scalable businesses that earn thousands without them having to be present. It's the difference between a consultant who works one-on-one versus an author whose book sells globally. When you productize knowledge, you multiply your earning potential exponentially. But even with passive income and productized knowledge, no one builds wealth alone. Delegation and outsourcing are critical steps in multiplying your efforts. The wealthy understand the power of other people's time. They build teams, hire freelancers, or use virtual assistants to handle routine or time-consuming tasks. This frees their time to focus on high-impact decisions and wealth-building strategies. I recall my own growth accelerated when I stopped trying to do everything myself and started trusting capable people to manage parts of my business. It's not about relinquishing control, but about multiplying your impact. The beauty of this approach is that your time shifts from maintenance to creation. Instead of being stuck in the grind, you step into the role of architect, designing systems that generate ongoing revenue. Each system you create, whether it's an investment portfolio, an online course, or a team, works like a machine that earns while you sleep, giving you the freedom to pursue new opportunities or simply enjoy life. This shift is not easy. It requires learning, courage, and patience. Passive income streams take time and effort to build. Productizing knowledge demands clarity and marketing. And delegation means developing leadership skills. But if you commit to this path, you escape the endless cycle of labor and enter the realm of wealth that compounds. If you want money to chase you, you must build engines that run independently of your daily labor. Start today by identifying one area where you can create passive income. Think about how to package your skills and consider who can help you multiply your efforts. Build wisely, delegate effectively, and watch as your income begins to flow around the clock. Wealth doesn't come from working harder, but from working smarter and letting your money and systems work for you. When it comes to building real wealth, focusing solely on the size of your paycheck is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. True financial success is not about how much money you bring home each month, but about how much you keep, grow, and build over time. It's about thinking in terms of net worth, the real measure of your financial health, not just the numbers on your pay stub. Shifting your mindset to this broader perspective is one of the most important steps you can take on the path to lasting wealth. Tracking your net worth monthly is a practice that many overlook, yet it's critical to your financial success. Net worth is simply your assets minus your liabilities. Assets are things that put money in your pocket: real estate, investments, businesses, savings. Liabilities are the debts and obligations that take money out. Credit cards, loans, expenses. By recording this number regularly, you gain a clear picture of whether you're truly moving forward or just running in place. When I began to track my net worth religiously, it was like having a financial GPS that kept me accountable, helped me make smarter decisions, and showed me where to focus my energy. Building equity instead of just income is another pillar of wealth thinking. Earning a paycheck feels good, but unless that income is turned into assets that appreciate, it won't create lasting wealth. Real estate, stocks, businesses. These are examples of assets that grow in value or generate cash flow beyond your labor. When I invested in my first rental property, I realized that the money I made from rent wasn't tied to my hours. That income built up whether I was working or not. The wealthy don't just earn, they own. They invest in things that compound, appreciate, and provide stability over the long haul. But here is a trap many fall into: lifestyle creep. As income grows, so do expenses. Bigger houses, newer cars, more luxurious vacations, all these can erode the gains you make. Wealth isn't about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep and how effectively you put that money to work. I often say, don't trade your freedom for a bigger paycheck. The wealthy grow their net worth by holding expenses steady or increasing them slowly, while accelerating their investments and savings. The key is conscious living making, deliberate choices about spending and investing. It's easy to get caught up in the illusion of wealth when your lifestyle inflates, but the truth is, if your expenses rise as fast as your income, your net worth stays the same or even declines. By resisting the urge to upgrade everything immediately, you give your assets the chance to grow faster than your liabilities. If you want to think like the wealthy, start by tracking your net worth monthly. Make it a habit to know where you stand financially, not just in your bank account, but in your total financial picture. Then, focus on building equity through ownership of appreciating assets and income-producing investments. Lastly, be vigilant about lifestyle creep. Grow your wealth first. Then your spending will naturally follow without compromising your future. Wealth is not measured by what you make today, but by what you keep and build for tomorrow. When you think in net worth, not paychecks, you change the entire game. And that shift in thinking will lead you to the financial freedom and security you desire. Building financial confidence is one of the most crucial steps on your journey to wealth. Yet many wait for the perfect moment or until they feel fully ready. But let me tell you this, confidence doesn't come from waiting, it comes from starting. It comes from taking action, learning from the experience, and gradually building your courage through small wins. If you want money to chase you, you have to first chase the experience that builds your financial confidence. One of the best ways to build this confidence is by taking small, manageable financial risks. It doesn't have to be a leap off a cliff. It can be a small step, like investing a modest amount in a stock, buying a book on investing, or starting a side project that interests you. When I was young, I started with very little, sometimes just a few dollars, and put that money into learning and testing new ideas. It's those small moves that prepare you for bigger opportunities. When you take a step, no matter how small, you're teaching yourself to be proactive rather than reactive. You're shifting from fear to curiosity, and that shift is where confidence begins. Books, courses, and seminars are essential because knowledge lays the foundation, but true confidence only comes from experience. It's one thing to read about investments or business strategies, but it's another to put them into practice, make mistakes, and then correct your course. I've seen people who know all the theories but never act, they stay stuck. Meanwhile, others who start imperfectly learn and grow faster. Every failure teaches you something invaluable. I remember early in my career how many mistakes I made, but each mistake made me better, sharper, and more confident. It's the doing that solidifies your belief in your ability to handle your finances. Along the way, it's important to track your wins, no matter how small. Keep a journal or a log of your progress, your wins, your lessons. Celebrating small successes fuels momentum. When you look back and see how far you've come, it encourages you to keep moving forward. Too often, people focus on what went wrong or what they haven't done yet, and that breeds doubt. But focusing on growth, no matter how incremental, builds a positive mindset. Wealth grows from consistent progress, not perfection. Start before you feel ready, take small steps, learn from experience, and celebrate your progress. That's how financial confidence is built, and that confidence will attract opportunities, partnerships, and yes, money. Because when you believe you can succeed, you act like someone who will succeed. Confidence turns intention into results. Mastering opportunity cost is a critical skill that separates those who accumulate wealth from those who remain stuck in a cycle of distraction and regret. Every choice you make, whether about time, money, or energy, comes with an unseen cost. When you say yes to one thing, you're automatically saying no to something else. The wealthy understand this deeply and use it to their advantage. If you want to think like the wealthy and act daily to attract success, learning how to say no strategically is essential. Let's start with time. Time is the great equalizer of everyone, gets the same 24 hours. But what you choose to do with those hours makes all the difference. Every yes you say to a low-value activity, like endless scrolling through social media, watching television mindlessly, or engaging in gossip, is a no to your dreams, your learning, and your growth. When I was starting out, I made it a practice to guard my time fiercely. I said no to distractions and yes to activities that pushed me closer to my goals. It wasn't always easy because the easy distractions are everywhere, but I realized that every minute wasted was a seed of regret planted in my future. So, I chose to invest my time instead in reading, attending seminars, and building relationships. If you want to master wealth, start by mastering your minutes. Now consider money. Every dollar you spend a day has a trade-off attached. Before you swipe your card or write a check, ask yourself, what could this money earn if I invested it instead? This simple question rewires your thinking from instant gratification to delayed gratification, a hallmark of the wealthy mindset. For example, when I first learned to save before spending, I started thinking of every purchase as a choice between present pleasure and future prosperity. That meant fewer impulse buys and more intentional investments in myself and assets that could generate income. Wealthy people understand that money has power when it's allowed to grow, not when it's spent immediately on fleeting comforts. So practice pausing before spending and imagine what you're giving up in potential wealth. Energy is the third and often overlooked trade-off. Energy is your fuel for productivity, creativity, and growth. You have a limited amount each day, and how you choose to expend it matters immensely. Complaining, worrying, or engaging in negativity drains your energy and leaves less for the actions that build wealth. Instead, focus your energy on learning, creating, and building relationships. When I was developing my own business and personal philosophy, I realized that emotional energy is just as important as money or time. Guard it like gold. Spend it on activities that energize you and bring you closer to your goals. Protect your mental and emotional state by surrounding yourself with positive influences and stepping away from energy vampires. Opportunity cost is the quiet tax on your decisions. When you say no to distractions, frivolous spending, and wasted energy, you say yes to wealth, growth, and freedom. The wealthy don't just chase money, they manage their time, money, and energy wisely. They understand that true wealth comes not only from what you gain, but from what you choose to forgo. Master this, and you will be on the path to not just financial success, but a life rich with purpose and fulfillment. Becoming a long-term thinker is one of the most powerful shifts you can make if you want to attract true wealth and lasting success. In a world that often pushes for instant gratification, quick fixes, and fast money, the disciplined person understands that real financial freedom comes from patience, planning, and persistence. The wealthy think in decades, not days. This mindset separates those who build empires from those who chase fleeting opportunities that vanish as quickly as they appear. When you start asking yourself, quote, "What decision today will make me wealthy 10 years from now?" you begin to step off the hamster wheel of short-term gain and onto the path of long-term growth. Wealth is not built in sprints, it's a marathon. That means the small, consistent actions you take every day, saving a portion of your income, investing wisely, learning continually, and building relationships add up over time to create something powerful. I recall my early years when I focused on building skills and habits that didn't yield immediate rewards, but set me up for decades of prosperity. It was the slow, steady accumulation of knowledge, discipline, and wise investments that made the difference. Instant wealth schemes never appealed to me because they rarely produce lasting results. Building legacy, not just income, is the natural next step in long-term thinking. You're not just working for today or even tomorrow, you're planning to provide for generations. That means teaching your children the principles of wealth, documenting your lessons, and investing in assets and ideas that outlive you. Legacy is about impact. It's about leaving behind wisdom, opportunities, and a foundation that others can build upon. I've seen families rise and fall depending on whether the elder generation taught the next how to think, save, and invest. Wealth that stops with one generation is vulnerable. Wealth that prepares the next generation multiplies exponentially. Protecting yourself against shortcuts is crucial. The world is full of scams, schemes, and shortcuts promising fast riches. The truth is, wealth built slowly and methodically lasts. Wealth built fast usually disappears faster. I remember hearing stories of people who got rich overnight and lost it just as quickly. They lacked the foundation, the habits, the mindset, the discipline that sustain wealth through ups and downs. The secret is to be wary of anything that sounds too good to be true. Focus instead on building systems, improving your skills, and making wise, patient investments. These are the cornerstones of lasting wealth. Long-term thinking isn't just about money, it's about how you view your life and your purpose. It encourages you to be patient with yourself, to embrace learning as a lifelong journey, and to value the compounding effect of not just in finances, but in relationships and personal growth. Every wise decision you make today plants a seed that will bear fruit for years to come. So, think decades, build legacy, and avoid shortcuts. Wealth that stands the test of time starts with the choices you make right now. As we come to the close of this journey together, remember this: wealth is not an accident or a matter of luck. It is the natural result of disciplined choices made consistently over time. It's about planting seeds today with the faith and patience to nurture them for decades. The real power lies in thinking beyond the immediate, acting with purpose daily, and building a legacy that outlives you.